Welcome, everybody, to Season 3 of the Modern Lending Podcast. My friends, this is going to be a solo episode, a little ranty. If you're into that stuff, you'll enjoy it. Otherwise, tune in for the rest of the season as we kind of unpack storytelling. I've done 3 seasons now of a podcast, and I've learned a ton through that stuff of self-exploration, of what I want this to be, of finding my own voice in the space. And so today, to kick it off in a season based on stories, you're going to hear mine. We're going to talk through some of the stories that I've had in my life that have impacted my career in dramatic fashion, in an effort to help maybe somebody out there who may be going through a similar thing with a little bit of a background, a little bit of inspiration to dive onto, or maybe a little bit of thing to avoid. So if you're hanging with me live today, make some love. Let's kick it off with Season 3, Episode 1, Story Time of the Modern Lending Podcast. So why stories? Why are we talking about stories in Season 3? Well, one of the things that has launched my career and helped me become as successful as I'm proud of becoming is literally stories. Stories from people who have achieved incredible things in their careers where I sat down and said, tell me how you did X, Y, and Z. Share with me what you went through. Help me understand, because you have to remember, before the internet, before books, all of human knowledge was passed down through storytelling. It was an oral tradition society. We shared experiences over and over again to help other people overcome theirs, to learn from mistakes, to achieve more. One of my favorite quotes is, I'm able to stand as tall as I am because I stand on the shoulders of giants. People like my dad, great people like Kevin Buddy, tremendous producers that have guided me in my career and still do today. So for those of you that hang out live, hit me up with a comment. Let's go through some fun. But I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories to share with you guys today of major events and aha moments of my career in my life that hopefully will help some of you guys in your process. The rest of the season is going to be designed to bring on guests to tell their stories. Stories of things they had to overcome, stories of experiences they are currently going through, things that can help us all become better in our career and in our trade. Stories are what the foundation of our society is built on, and I'm excited to share some with you. What's up, Joe? Yeah, some of the stories, by the way, I'm not exactly proud of. They're not like the shining moments of my life, but I think they're helpful, especially for some people that are out there. So let me tell you the first one. So many people know that I started in this career as a receptionist in a strip mall. I started as a receptionist at a strip mall. That's actually candidly not fully true. I actually started when I was in college. I shipped loan files. I had a part-time job in an operations center, a part-time job sitting on a builder community up in Vallejo in Northern California. But let's just forget all that for a second. That's a whole nother story. I graduated. I came down to Southern California. I was 23 years old, and I started at a strip mall right here in Irvine, California, where I sat next to a Whole Foods in a Countrywide Home Loans office. And I sat there at 23 years old with a glorious head of hair, and I was the front desk person. I was what they called the internal loan consultant. I got paid $90 a loan and a small salary to do HELOCs, people that came in with their groceries. I still remember it. People would walk in from Whole Foods with their groceries, and I sat there and I would take their application, help them get a loan. And I had a bunch of loan officers and ops people and managers, but I was the front desk guy. It was great. Now, I remember one of the things, the pivotal moments, an aha moment of my career was I would come in 8:15 to 5:15 because that was the hours, and I was a salaried employee, and I sat there all day long. But one of the things that was driving me absolutely nuts was that the state of the office was kind of gross. And some of you might resonate with this because the kitchen was never cleaned. There were boxes of paper everywhere. It wasn't organized. There was nothing on the walls. It looked like a barren landscape, a desertscape. It was just not a great, I didn't feel the energy there. And one day, I decided that, you know what, I was going to take personal ownership of the office. Since no one else was going to do it, I went out to Staples, and I bought the motivational cat posters and the eagle flying in the wind poster and the excellence, and I hung them all myself. And I remember one day I was cleaning out the room, and I was putting up posters, and it was 5:15. It was time to clock out. 5:15, time to clock out. And I was frustrated because I wasn't getting enough done, and the environment wasn't the way I wanted it. And I had this incredible moment. I didn't have to leave at 5:15. Now, again, hold on. This is 23-year-old Alec. You gotta ride the train here. I had to clock out at 5:15. I wasn't going to stay for overtime. I was cleaning on my own time. And so I realized that I didn't have to clock out at 5:15. In fact, I realized that I had all the time in existence. You see, someone had said this to me before, but it didn't resonate until that moment. When you hear the excuse, you have no time. I have no time. Oh my God, there's no time. The lie in that, or the flip side of the coin on that, is that you have all the time. You have all of it. Every single minute, every single 24 of the hours in the day, you have all that time. And the second I realized that all the time was mine to use it as I wanted, I had this incredible freedom to own the space I was in, to stay a few minutes late, to put up the posters. And all of a sudden, as the people came back to work over the following days and they saw the cleanliness of the office and the space and everything else, it was this aha moment for me and for them. Number one, I owned the space and created the environment I wanted. But number two, you have all the time there is in the world, which when we think about it in the scarcity sense, that's terrible. We don't have enough time. It's always slipping away. But when you think about it in the sense of abundance, you have all the time that there is, which is incredibly, incredibly powerful. I still think of it to this day. No matter what I'm going through, if I'm stressed and I feel like there's not enough time, I remind myself there's all the time. And I get that lightening of load, that little bit of the backpack falling to the ground and realizing, hey, no, I get to have all the time. And so maybe I work a little later. Maybe I stay up a little later. Maybe I wake up a little earlier, but I have all the time. And with all the time comes all the power. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you, buddy. The second biggest story, that experience of my life in lending, was that no one works hard. Now, hold on. Before you get triggered and you hear this, let me paint the picture of when I first experienced this and what led me to make this statement. And hopefully not in a way that slanders other people, but just maybe opens your eyes to something that maybe you're dealing with. So I remember at a 25-year-old now, when I just go out on my own in origination. Give me my own loan officer. I had actually moved to a new office that opened in the city that I was prospecting in. So I left my other office. I moved to a new office that just opened. I didn't know anybody. I was ready to rock and roll. And oh, by the way, Joe, thank you. So true, man. All the time. I was ready to rock and roll in that new environment. And I showed up like I always did because I was the receptionist at 8:15. I show up at 8:15 ready to rock. Guess who's in the office at 8:15? 0 people. 0 people. Hi, Susan. Thank you. No one's in the office. I said, brand new loan officer, day one, show up 8:15, no one there. I was like, what is going on? Am I being punked? Is the office not open? Does anybody know what's going on? I had to unlock it myself. I walk in there. Sure enough, by about 10 to 10:30, loan officers started to show up. Now, if you're a loan officer right now and I'm triggering you, I'm sorry, but I'm in the office at 8:15 because I was taught, and in my brain, I'm like, you start work. And work means you're in the office. Work doesn't mean you're at home. Work doesn't mean you're playing. Work means you're in the office. And yet no one showed up until like 10:30. And then as the day went on, as we got to like 3 o'clock or 3:30, the office emptied again. Now, some people could be saying, well, Alec, that 3 o'clock they're out with realtors and blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm going to call you BS on that because I knew broker previews and open houses were on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays and Sundays. And we're talking Monday morning. Monday by 3:30, ghost town in the office. And I'm sitting here going, what is happening? Jeff, what is happening? How come no one's here working? Now, again, some people are saying, well, maybe they're with customers. No, they're not. No, they're not. Because now, as my 18th year of mortgage, I know for a fact that if you want success in mortgage, one of the biggest stories I could ever tell anybody, if you're thinking of getting into mortgage, the unbelievable competitive advantage you will have over everybody else is that most of the mortgage professionals out there do not work hard. You see, here's my example on this that I hope is helpful for anybody watching this. If you're being a little bit triggered or feeling personally attacked by this, don't. Have some grace for yourself, okay? Work as hard as you want. But I was going to work from 8 to 5, and I was going to crush it no matter what. So here's what I say to people. Look, I don't have time people. I am working hard people. Great. From 8:15 to 5:15, not even the outside hours after that. From 8:15 to 5:15, I am going to shadow you personally. So from 8:15, wherever you want to meet, coffee shop, obviously not your home. Get out of your home. Go to the people are. Go get loans. Go out and talk to realtors. But from 8:15 to 5:15, I'm just going to hang with you. Jeff's like, I'm just going to hang with you. And we're just going to have a day together. You know, that's terrifying. That was terrifying to me when I heard it as a loan officer. I was like, man, I'm so busy. And my boss was like, great, I'm just going to shadow you from 8:15 to 5:15. And I was like, nope, no, thank you. Can you imagine if I'm shadowing you from 8:15 to 5:15, what your day is going to look like? How much of your day is literally just downtime, wasted time? Is that too aggressive? But this is the truth in lending. If you are bad puns for that you don't mean to. If you are a loan officer or thinking about being a loan officer today, the number one story I can tell you is indicative of that experience I had when I walked into the office at 8:15 and no one showed up till 10:30, and at 3 o'clock to 3:30, everyone was gone again. There's hours left. What are we doing? One of my favorite examples is no one works hard. Now, one of my favorite stories, and I tell this often and frequently and always, is I was told to go get business, leave every single day, and come back with 8 business cards from agents. And so obviously on Thursdays and Fridays when they hold open houses, this was the absolute best time to meet them. They were in their open houses. They were showing it off to other realtors. They were having it open for customers. That's where they're sitting. Go meet them. A little pro tip for people right now who are like, oh, those are just listing agents. What are you talking about? They're just listing agents. You mean they're the agent that controls the property? They're the agent that's going to pick and choose who the seller goes with, that has the highest level of influence with the seller. They're the agents that are going to try to double dip the house if they can. They're the most powerful agent in the transaction. You're not going to go talk and meet these people. So I would go out, and I vividly, and will never forget the story of the one time I went to this agent's house, one of the best agents in Orange County, absolute monster agent, right? We pull data. We know who you are. One of the best of the best. I pull up to the house. I'm 23 years old, 25 years old. I got a crappy suit on, and I'm going to go in and meet this agent for the first time. I've been sending the mailers. I'm going to meet him for the first time. So what you do? By the way, for those of you that don't know my background on this, I have an unbelievable astronomical fear of rejection. It's the biggest and the greatest. I'm also the most humblest. No one has more fear of rejection than me, period. Now, you have to manage that crap because it's brutal. And some of you out there understand what I'm feeling like. That call reluctance, that fear of somebody telling you, no, you're not good enough, no way, is crippling and debilitating. I could never cold call an agent in my life. I would never, ever do it. I was terrified of cold calls. I still hate them, by the way. So I'm sitting outside this agent's office, agent's open house. I can see them inside. So I turn on Jock Jams. And if you know, you know. If you know what Jock Jams is about. So I turn on Jock Jams. I'm in the car. I'm grooving. It's my Honda Civic. It's a great car. Don't judge. I'm slapping myself. Let's get ready. Let's go. Let's meet this agent. And then I did what every great professional before me has ever done. I drove away without ever going inside. Never going inside. I just drove away. So terrified just to go introduce myself that I stinking drove away. Drove away. Because the reality is, we all have this fear in here that we're not good enough. We all have this fear in here that they're not going to work with me. They're not going to like me. They're not going to accept me. We're all just piled into it. We all live in it. In fact, I see the same fear come out when I tell people to put the camera on and showcase themselves to the world. The same fear comes out of, I can't do that. It's not me. I'm not good enough. I can't. No one cares what I have to say. I don't even like what I look like and sound like. The same thing happens. And I remember that fear and that terrifying debilitation of, oh my God, I couldn't even go in and say hi. I drove away. Now, I wish this had a happy ending, but I'm going to give you a pro tip and a story through the story before I get into the next topic. And the story through the story is because I was so afraid of being rejected, but I knew in my soul that if I wanted the success that I was capable of achieving, I had to figure out how to get in front of these agents. So you know what I did? I took the coward's way out. At least that's what I told myself at the time. It turns out it wasn't the coward's way out. It was the way through. Instead of going in there with an agenda to sell, to convince somebody, to bring a flyer, to bring waters, instead of having anything on there that would cause somebody to say no, reject, etc., I stopped selling. And I literally just walked in. And I introduced myself. Now, the first time I did this without selling, I realized that I need to also say I'm a lender because this agent thought I was a buyer and they ended up touring me around the house to the point where I was so deep in it that I had to pretend I was the buyer and I could never just say, actually, I'm just a lender trying to meet you. And then I could never ever talk to that agent again, ever. Because I was awkward. But I would go in and I'd say, hey, it's Alec with Countrywide. Nice to meet you. That's it. I'd shut up. That was my game. That was the angle. That's how I overcame the fear and the jock jams. I went in there and I just introduced myself because I could do that much because there's no sell involved. There's nothing to reject. I didn't ask them for a meeting. I didn't ask them who their lender is. I didn't ask them if they want flyers or bagels. I just said, my name is Alec and I'm a lender. Well, fast forward. What I was doing was hacking the system without meaning to by the fact of reality of not selling myself or my services in any way. I was able to build relationships organically with these wonderful people. Some of them weren't so wonderful, but a lot of agents are with great agents who started to like me and get to know me and eventually started to trust me and respect the hustle to the point of me saying to them in all confidence, why aren't we working together? And it wasn't weird. It wasn't a case for rejection. Many of the realtors would go, you know what? I've just been using this person for so long that I'm just kind of in the rut, but maybe we should work together. That was the result of pushing through fear and building relationships. And that's the story within the story. The next story, and I believe this with my entire heart, I validated this year over year over year, is that if you want the success you're capable of, you have to put the declaration out into the world. You have to tell the universe your goals. It's a big, scary thing. It's a big, scary thing to say to the universe, here's what I want to achieve. What if you don't do it? Does that reflect on your self-worth? What if you don't make it? Are you a failure? It's a big, scary thing, but the universe rewards boldness and courage. And I want to give you my example of this. Thanks, Jeff, dude. Love you, man. I want to give you my best example of this. So in my first year originating loans, I funded $85 million my first year just by doing what I've been talking about, going to agents' open house and just saying hi. And this is 2004 or five. But I never had crested the $10 million mark. I wanted to fund over $10 million in a month. It's a huge accomplishment. It's very rare to do. Every $10 million month is a good month. I don't care who you are. And I never funded over $10 million. And so what I did was I took a mailer and I put together a challenge, a declaration, and I sent the mailer out to the top 100 agents in the market, to all my past customers, and the cover of the letter, which I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to show you this. On the cover of that was this dude. This guy was on the cover of the thing, and you can't see it because I cut the letters off, but it says $10 million challenge across the chest. Look at that hair for a second. Oh my gosh, the guy is just a stud. What a Viking. I mean, honestly. And at the bottom of the letter, it said, I'm hosting a $10 million challenge. I'm putting myself out there. I'd never funded over $10 million, and I wanted to do it, and I need your help. I'm getting married in July. For the month of June, I want to fund over $10 million before I go on my honeymoon with my wife. That was the challenge, and I sent it to everybody in mail. They had physical representation of this in the office, in their mailbox, the $10 million challenge. I was nervous as hell. I was terrified. I don't know why. Look at the hair. Look at the shoulder, look at the suit. I don't know. I shouldn't have been scared at all. But I was terrified. I put myself out there with a huge goal and asked people to help me. And you want to know what happened? You want to know what happened? I funded $13.5 million in June. Realtors that had never used me, but that had respect the hustle, that had seen me running around, that actually thought I was working hard, shot me over some referrals. Some of them I converted. Past customers were like, I got my friend. They sent me deals. Because I declared to the universe an objective and a goal, the universe met it. Now, when I say all that as a huge success, and I'm proud of it, I also want to show the underlying truth, too, of the declaration of the universe. Sometimes the result you get isn't the one you expect. I watched loan officers go out and prospect for 6 months. And after 6 months, the agents they were really hustling after, they weren't the ones that gave them business. They ended up getting their whole career set up with a whole other set of agents that they weren't even prospecting as their core group. Because when you put things out in the universe and you drive towards it, the universe has a way to refer to support and come back around and take care of you. Next story. You've got to stand out. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but if you want to get noticed, you got to authentically stand out. So when I say stand out, you can't do it in a way that's not uniquely you. So, for example, one of the things that I was doing to stand out, to make myself and authentically be vulnerable, was I would send people, prospects, realtors in the mail, things that would be different than a flyer. So one time I sent, and this is all this is all early 2000s, so compliance and craziness, but I wanted, you'll get the tangent. I would send all the realtors, the top 100 that I was going after, a little tiny eyeglass screwdriver. You've seen those before, a little tiny screwdriver for your eyeglasses. And said, if you're tired of getting screwed by your current lender, you should consider working with me. Now, that's not very politically correct, but it was funny at the time, and it was out in every realtor's mailbox. I sent all the realtors I was prospecting a little squishy dog bone, and on it printed said, "Throw me a bone. Alec Hansen, my number. I'd love a chance to work with you. We haven't worked together in the past." I mailed a absolute brick, a literal brick, to my realtors' offices. A brick with a thing on it that said, "I'd like to build a strong foundation with you." Nick's feeling the vibe right now. At one point, I mailed a bobblehead. It's sitting over there. You could see it right there. A bobblehead of myself. Now, it's a terrible version because I got it in China, and I'm pretty sure I'm Persian. It's not good. I sent a bobblehead to the top agents I wanted to work with. You got to stand out. One of my favorites was sending an entire box of fortune cookies to the offices that I was prospecting. And check this out. In the fortune cookies, you can customize these. In the fortune cookies, you can put in any fortune you want. So, of course, what did the fortune say? Your next successful referral to Alec Hansen will close early and on time, and your customer will be ecstatic. That was the fortune in every single fortune cookie delivered to every single office. All that stuff, though, I'm not saying to copy me, but I'm telling you, all that stuff is a representation of me. It's my humor. I have fun with it. I enjoy it. Oh, yeah, you can't see it over there, but hold on. Oh, yeah, you can. Hold on. See this window box? So you've seen these window boxes before where you put like paraphernalia in that you can collect. For those listening on just the podcast, it's one of those boxes where you put like a baseball or something in there. Look at that. Look at that. My business card, and it says, "In case of emergency, break glass." And it has my mortgage business card. This was sent out to all the top agents. You got to stand out, my dudes. It's an important thing. You can't just be and now with the internet and video, man, you can stand out in so much more ways. But I'm telling you, as a pro tip, as we end this story, I would absolutely, and I'm coaching to this today, I would be doubling down and tripling down on actual physical mail to people that you're prospecting. Physical mail they can touch and hold and open. You want to make an impact? Send something physical. Stop the email blast, stop the garbage, and send something real. Now, let's pivot forward in my career a little bit. This is more of a leadership story, but let's talk about bad hires. We got to talk about it. It happens, and even to the best of us, the best recruiters I know, the best leaders I know, every now and then you make a bad hire. It's not your fault, but it happens. And I'll give you my story. So I was a young sales manager, and I wanted to hire a team around me. I was trying to flex into leadership. I wanted to hire some great people to work around me. In mortgage, if you want to be in leadership, you need people that follow you. That's kind of how it works. You don't fall upwards. So I remember I hired this guy, and he was a high talent, but he wasn't his level of success. And I was like, I can fix that because I'm Alec Hansen, which is not true, but arrogance of the youth. And so I remember one day he was struggling. He had missed a couple months, had 0 closings, and he needed money. Obviously, if you don't fund loans and you don't make money, it's having hard times. And he came to me and he said, "Alec, I really need some money. Can you give me an advance?" And I knew the company wasn't going to do it because this guy was a low producer. They're not going to advance this guy money. He's not going to do loans. But of course, I said yes. And I gave this guy a check, personal check. And I said, "Look, just pay me back when you can." And then he left the country. He left the country. I'm not joking. He left the country with my check. My friends, when you're in leadership, you're going to make some bad hires. It's unavoidable if you're really trying hard. Number one, you can't let it personally affect you. Number two, you cannot personally get involved financially with these people because it never is going to work out for you. And number three, you got to action on it quickly. I know, and you know, in your heart of hearts, when you make a bad hire, you know almost within the first month, right away. Like, for example, no loans come on the board. And you're like, "Oh, I messed up." Yeah. Once you know, Fix it fast. Last two stories, I promise. These are my fun ones, though. This one was a big one for me as a leader. So when I say check under the water, what do I mean? What am I talking about? What am I referring to? When you have people that you work with for a long time, you build a strong relationship with it. I'd even consider it a friendship to some degree, because even though there's a hierarchy and there's a boss employee thing, you love these people. They become family. You care about them. You work with them every day. You solve problems together every day. I don't know what that is on my head, but now it's gone. And sometimes they're not totally honest with you. So in this example, I had a leader who I just loved. I'd worked with him for 7 years. He's a tremendous talent in the mortgage industry. And he had taken on a new position to run this branch. And I was like, it's time. It's your time. Run the branch. And he got in there, and very shortly, he just wasn't enjoying it. Whether it was the loan officers who just constantly complain, or it was the environment we were in the industry at that time, but he wasn't enjoying it. But because we had such a good friendship, and because he was, in my opinion, just being a great soldier in the field, when I would check with him, I would get this, I'm good. We're good, bro. We're good. And we weren't good. And so when I say check into the water, I mean, just because the things on the surface look good doesn't mean stuff underneath is good. And so one of my big failures in leadership in that moment was I didn't really get into the earth to say, are we really good? If I did, I would have found out we weren't. In fact, what happened was he ended up looking for another opportunity and departing. And maybe this could not have been avoided. Maybe it was just time to part ways, which happens in lending. But I look back on that with a whole understanding of, man, I should have gone deeper. Not just looked at the surface and thought everything was great. I should have just gone deeper. And if you're in leadership today, I would encourage you to figure out a way to make sure that you do that amidst the distractions, amidst what we're trying to solve. Always figure out how to go deeper and really check on the people you care about. My last story is from one of my favorite books. It's right here next to me. I've talked about this before. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? And in lending, one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give anybody is that what you're doing today, the efforts, the strategies, the tactics, are not going to be the things that give you the success you're capable of in the future. And throughout all my 18 years of my career, through credit crisis, through mergers and acquisitions, through different roles and responsibilities, one thing has always maintained its truth. Change is crucially important. It's a catalyst that pushes people forward. It's something that needs to be rejoiced in and not pushed away or not shunned. It is going to happen whether you want to change with it or not. And so my stories of companies that have changed underneath me, my stories of teammates who have changed underneath me, my stories of people who have joined and left and joined again or left again, all this stuff, change is inevitable. And my biggest encouragement for anybody who's listening to this, who's at whatever part in your career you're at, it's going to happen again. In fact, one of the most valuable compliments I can give a leader today is how quickly they can react to change. Because the leaders and the loan officers that are highly adaptable are always the best people to work around and be around. So I would ask you, in your work today, I mean, look at the simple change in our lives. If you've been around a little bit of time and you have a slick hairline like me, all right. I was going house to house to meet agents in 2003 through 5 using printouts of MapQuest. Printouts of MapQuest to figure out how to get from house A to B. I didn't know the neighborhoods like that. The multiple listing services was locked down, meaning all of the homes that were for sale were invisible to this consumer, to the loan officer. You couldn't find them unless you talked to a realtor or looked in the Sunday newspaper. And then fast forward to today and look at the radical amounts of change that have happened since then. Isn't it fascinating now that all the knowledge is in the palm of our hand and all this stuff has changed? So I want to ask you this and share this with you as an ending of this whole kind of first episode of season 3 of storytelling. What are you holding on to in your business that you'd radically need to let go of? If it's the denial that you need to have a strong digital brand and presence and that you need to be on video and in social media, then it's time to let that go. If it's the belief that what you did last year and the year before and the last 5 years can somehow give you the same levels of success going forward, then you need to let that go. There has been nothing but constant change in the mortgage industry since I joined. And as far as I can look back, all I have seen is nothing but constant change in the mortgage industry prior to that. Guidelines change, programs change, laws change, regulation changes. You just saw the Biden administration come out and say, we want to lend more to minorities and first-time home. The world, it's going to be. It's all happening right around us, right here on my desk, because every time a change bumps into me, I look at it and I go, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what I do. I manage change. I thrive in change. I don't sit here and expect the same thing that got me the success is going to get it to me tomorrow. So I'm going to change with it. And I'm going to change ahead of it. And I'm going to look and be a student of my own experience. I'm going to evolve through it. My last piece of encouragement for you guys in storytelling on season 1, on episode 1, season 3. The success you're capable of in our industry, man, it's yours for the taking. It's going to require you to be vulnerable. It's going to require you to make sacrifices. It's going to require hard work. It's going to require you to be in uncomfortable positions, like getting on camera, like meeting those agents for the first time. It's going to require you to figure out a strategy to push through your insecurities that we all have, but you're not alone in it. For every single person that's talked to me and seen my levels of success and said, oh, I could never do that, because I have insecurity and I can't get on the phone, I laugh hysterically. I remember that time I drove away from that top performer's house. I laugh because of how many videos I used to delete on my phone after I'd take 700 takes of it because I was never happy with the ones that it was. You unbelievable local mortgage professionals, man, you are not alone. And I hope you tune in for the rest of season 3 to hear some stories from some incredible people as they've figured out ways to drive forward in their own career, as they figured out solutions to help themselves push through barriers that were in front of them, as they had hardships that they had to overcome that people like me maybe never had to. I hope you take some experience from them, some support from them, some motivation, and go achieve what you're capable of achieving. Thank you for the listeners of the Modeling Podcast. I love that you guys have hung with me for 2 seasons and now to the 3rd. I hope that this is one that's going to delight you. And I can't wait to share some of these amazing, amazing stories with you guys. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the internet.